again. Let me turn off that annoying metronome. I'll find it someday. Yeah, I've been using a metronome recently because I have a habit of pausing when I don't know what's the next note or chord. So it's a good idea. Get a backing track or a metronome or a click track of some kind. Keep you on time. But this is a song called Chains. It's kind of an oddball tune. I like it. It's very simple, but it's hard to play as a sort of a solo guitar rock and roll thing. It was written by Carole King and her husband, the pharmacist Jerry Goffin. So he was a pharmacist, they married, and he started writing lyrics for Carole's tunes way back in the day in the Brill building in New York. And this one was offered to the Everly Brothers in '62, and they recorded it in July of '62. But oddly enough, they opted never to release it, from what I read. A girl group called the Cookies had a big hit with it later in '62. And of course the Beatles, one of the plethora of Liverpool groups back in the day. You know, you had, I guess, Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, the Beatles, Jerry and the Pacemakers, millions of groups that followed the Beatles over after their Ed Sullivan appearance. A lot of them did Chains by Carole King, and the Beatles did it. Apparently this was the first lead vocal that Harrison had on a professionally recorded record. So it's interesting in that sense. This was one of the tunes that when they went into the studio for the first time with George Martin and they wanted to just create an album, somebody came up with the idea of, hey, let's just do our set that we do live in clubs. And I think this was one of the tunes. But yeah, it's in the key of A, and it's a kind of a weird thing because I almost never play, like if I'm trying to do a little solo guitar bit, I almost never play majors or minors. You know, you always try to, at least I always try to do like major sevens, major nines, major six, you know, minor 9, minor 7, minor 6. But this is rock and roll. So it starts out with an A chord, and the melody note is the third. The C sharp is the melody. That's Chains. So we're going to come up. This is a voicing I never use, so it's awkward for me. So it's kind of a C shape. Here's a C major cowboy. If you change the fingering of it, bring it all the way up so your pinky's on the 12th fret A. Let's dispense with the pinky, and you're left with, barring the first 3 strings, 9th fret, you've got the middle finger on the 10th fret, 2nd string, and you've got the ring finger on the 11th fret, 4th string. Yeah, I never use that, so it's awkward for me to get to. A little bit about that in a moment, but yeah, the first melody note is going to be, and the nice thing is you can throw the open A in. That's Chains. You can just come back to the 2nd string, pick the note that's in the chord, and then play that chord again. Baby's got me. Now for Locked Up in Chains, I'm going to move to a different voicing, which is going to be this A major down here. What's nice is there's a lot of ninths in the melody. That's awkward to me. I would have preferred if the melody was, I always want to hear the dominant A7 instead of A major. But anyway, the way it's written in this book that I have is, top is, so we're doing A chord with that melody, then you change to an A7. A, B, and now for the C sharp, we've got this little D7 shape moved up, so it's an A7, okay? One more time. Oh, the intro. Let's get back to the intro. I just copped the old bluesy rock and roll thing. You know, I learned it in E, so in E it would be like, you know, it was Cream did something with that, but so what it is you're kind of playing the B and the D, then the open E. Then you go into the 5 chord of the key you're heading for, which in the Cream case it's B7 going to E, but in the Chains situation it's in A. So I was trying to do something, and my hands started hurting. You know, I'm at an age now where if I try to do anything out of the ordinary, like I have to be in traction for about a week. But basically, I decided instead of doing the high A, just make it easy on yourself. Play that along with the open A. threw in like an E7 sharp 9 sharp 5, I think, and then we can start the tune. So rewinding back to where we started, come back for the second string, change to the different position, A major, change to A7. Now go to a D9, but it's actually a D13 with the melody, which is kind of cool. Here, of course, is a different voicing of a D7. I'm not worrying about the 9 right now. And then back to the A major. Okay. Whoa, whoa, these. So this is nice. If nothing else, you might learn or refresh a voicing or two here. So we got whoa, this is A major with A on top. I keep jumping back to the A7. It's just so much easier for me to play. A9. Yeah, so I'm kind of violating the sheet music a little bit in that this whole measure is supposed to be A major, but I can grab the dominant 7s much easier because I think I use them a lot more often. But whoa, these chains. So this is going to be A major with A on top, A7 with C sharp on top, A9 with the E on top, and then we land on E9. First time through, you just go to the 5, which is E7. Okay? Back to that original voicing of A major. The other voicing, change to A7. D9. D7, back to the A major. D9, now when we go to the middle part, we're going to play A7. Do a D7 here with the bar. D7 there to D13. Okay, so the melody note comes, the F sharp comes in on beat 2, so we're going to do bass note first. Okay, now we're going to play a, let me try that again, I'm sorry, my eye jumped to the different line. Yeah. E9, and back to the beginning. What I did, I think, was kind of went through the tune once, and then when it came back for the second chorus, so to speak, the second time through the whole tune, I just did a little A7 stuff. So solo over the verse, and then when it gets to the middle section, I went back to the melody. So sometimes what I wind up doing, it's kind of weird, but because I can grab the dominant 7s more easily than I can grab the majors, sometimes I make the whole thing dominant 7. So that would be like, the drawback of that is that you don't get the slightly dramatic, you know, you're on A, and then it changes. That's kind of nice. So I try usually to grab the majors, even though they're awkward, because I like that change. See, I can't even grab the chord. that's nice, the change from major to dominant 7. Okay, so yeah, Chains, written by Carole King and Jerry Goffin. It's a nice old Beatles track from the early days. Been on a Beatles kick lately, watching a series called Deconstructing the Beatles. Scott Fryman is a musicologist who has a whole series. He's got like 10 different 90-minute episodes. Actually, Abbey Road is allocated 2 90-minute episodes, and I believe, what's the other one? Yeah, I think that's the only one that got 2 90 minutes. Early Beatles. He has a whole presentation called Early Beatles. You can get them on Amazon. I think they're probably on the PBS streaming service because he had a kind of an introductory overview video that he did on PBS about a month or 2 ago. And so I'm guessing if you subscribe to the PBS streaming, you could probably grab it there. But yeah, the DVDs are on Amazon. Parts of it are a little repetitive if you're a Beatle nut like me from back in the day. You know, you read all the books and heard all the interviews. The most intriguing part of his presentation is usually the music itself. He has a whole thing about, what song was it? Yeah, you know, like in music, there's something called a perfect cadence. From the 5 chord to the 1 chord. There's also something called the plagal cadence. So in one of the old Beatle tunes, he's going through and he's showing you that they do like, I think it was like a plagal cadence, and he does like, the Beatles did like 4 of them in a row. Of course, having never ever heard of a plagal cadence, or even having heard of a cadence, I'm sure. But he gives you all kinds of obscure things. Some fun facts recently. According to Scott Fryman, what guitar were George and Paul playing when they do the trading of the guitar solos on the track The End on Abbey Road? Lennon, of course, is playing his Epiphone Casino. According to Scott Fryman, both Paul and George are playing Fender Telecasters, which is odd because I've never ever seen either one of them in the Beatle era with a Telecaster. But in any event, this is Chains. I hope you like the tune. Kind of simple, but kind of rocking, kind of nice. I love the Beatles version. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. I hope you have fun. Keep practicing, keep playing. Subscribe if you haven't. Throw me a comment or a like or a question, whatever you might have. Otherwise, keep working, keep playing, enjoy, and talk to you next time. Have a great day.